I think folks who may be less familiar with your work would like to get to know a little bit more about you as a
Yep.
guy, because you're a real person. Here you are. And I think people want to know, like, where you're from and what your background is and what led you to Mormon literature.
No. Uh, I remember when I was in college, people would ask, "Where are you from?" And
Hmm.
I'd say I was at Otterbein College first, and that's where I'm from. So I'd be, "Oh, I'm here in town, Columbus, Ohio, right?" And they'd be like, "No, before that." I'd be like, "Oh, I was born in Utah," and they'd go, "No, before that." And, and I'd be like, "Yes, thank you for asking this question. We lived before this life with our Father
Right.
and Mother in heaven. We
Oh, is
came
that where this is
here."
going? Oh dear.
Uh, so where am I from? The real answer is God. We are all from God originally.
All
No,
yes.
but I think with a little bit of time, the question people are asking is also the kind of family history question. So my dad's dad was Jewish. Um,
Hmm.
he spent most of his life in Los Angeles. His parents were from Romania, and
Yeah.
so got Romanian Jewish on that side. My mom's dad grew up Sikh in Punjab, in India. Well, in British India, it was undivided. Then half of it
Mm.
went to Pakistan, half went to India when he was 12 years old. Um, I've actually got the book Latter Day Sikh that my wife and I co-wrote. This is my most recent book. Is his story. It's
Yeah, it's really
fascinating.
exciting. Hmm.
And then both my grandmas were Mormon, came from Mormon families. Um, my dad's mom is from California. And part of the story that lots of people don't know, but is super important in the history of the church, which is the Mormon outmigration in the
Hmm.
early 20th century, especially in the years after World War One. During and after World War One, a lot of people moved from Utah to California. And
Yeah.
that's where we kind of figure out what the church we know looks like is when you're
Mm.
not doing it in a place where everybody's, or at least most people are Latter-day Saints.
Right.
Um, so they're like out-migration Mormons, right? Although out-migration Mormons who also ended up with interesting connections. My great aunt was in Hawaii at Pearl Harbor and in Kuwait when it was invaded
Oh gosh.
in Desert Storm.
Yeah.
That family got connected to the Islamic world in different ways. I remember hanging out with the Shah of the nephew of the Shah of Iran. He
Hmm.
taught me some things about poetry when I was a kid because he was friends with my great grandma, right? And just like came over
Right.
to her house. And then my mom's mom, like I mentioned, her family was from the colonies in Mexico. She was born in El Paso, grew up in Hidalgo State in Mexico, and then back in West Texas. And that her grandpa was born on the Pioneer Trail.
Oh
It,
gosh.
the wagon stopped for an hour, and his
Yeah.
mom gave birth. Mary Wood gave birth to Helaman Pratt, and then they went on. And so he has like the Mormonist origin story. And
And the
then his
Mormonist
dad,
name, Helaman Pratt.
Helaman is yeah, that's a very Mormon name. And his dad was Parley P. Pratt, right?
Oh wow. Okay. So you're
So I've
related to
got
Parley P. Pratt.
I am a Parley P. Pratt descendant, yep, and have
Goodness.
the Sikh Jewish Mormon all come together. And then in
Mm.
my life, I was a BYU baby. My parents were both at BYU. I was baptized in California. I picked If You Could Hide to Kolob for the hymn. I'm still proud of that, that at
Yes.
8, I was ready for that kind of thing.
Mm.
And then I came of age mostly in Columbus, Ohio, and the Riverside ward there was like home to me. I've got an essay called This Migrant World that talks a little bit about moving there. Uh, that word comes up in a poem called Song of the Salt Sea. That's like my long, super literary, complicated poem. That's kind of a T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland Mormon version, written
Hmm.
100 years after. It was the 100th anniversary. I was thinking about that. And now I live in American Fork, kind of by the DI. Fun fact, I
So
live in the
specific.
ward. Maybe unfun fact, I should have phrased this, but unfun fact. I live in the ward where Brenda and Erica Lafferty were murdered.
Oh goodness.
The
Yeah, that
story
is
that
not a fun
John
fact.
Krakauer used for Under
Mm.
the Banner of Heaven, and it's come up. And so, again, that's too, like, I'm around some, like, there's hard stuff that happened here. but I
Hmm.
know the people who were like there for the family afterwards and who knew, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is so I can see the more human side of stuff that's been super sensationalized.
Yeah.
So so yeah, that's where I'm from.
Okay. Great. And then and how did you get into Mormon literature? I mean, have you always been a writer? Because I feel like, I can say I've always been a reader, and I think I figured out I was going to be a writer sometime in elementary school, and I haven't really looked back. But have you always been a writer?
Um, Probably. I grew up in a very oral culture, so I was always a
Mm,
storyteller and I
yeah.
was always a listener. I like to
Hmm.
hear people tell their stories.
Yeah.
Um, and I was raised pretty playful. Um, yeah, I was thinking part of how I might have gotten into Mormon literature, I had a great primary chorister.
Mm,
Sister
hmm.
Bell. I was trying to remember her first name. I think it might be Karen Bell.
Okay. That's an
But
appropriate
sister,
name for
right?
a chorister.
Um,
Kind of a perfect name.
yeah. And that was when I was a little kid. So we were in Utah Valley still. This was the Suncrest Third Ward in Orem. She like made up words to songs.
Mm.
So we would sing, there was the popcorn popping song, but we would also sing, I looked out the window and what did I see? Two Mormon missionaries coming after me, um, and stuff like that. And then just whole other. So I think, you know,
Ah,
from a young age, just randomly, I happened to be in this place where one woman gave me the like foundational experience of what does it mean to be a Latter-day Saint was you can play with this,
yeah.
right? And you can find language for experiences. And like
Hmm.
that's a way that we come together and grow. So I think that was helpful. Um, I definitely experimented some with writing when I was in high school. I liked theater a lot,
Hmm.
but I did more directing and stage management. I did a lot of like independent student run theater kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
liked the
That's what
scrappiness.
led to New Play Project. Yeah.
Um, so I do think my development as a Mormon writer was the development as a Mormon first and then
Yeah.
turning to language
Yeah.
to deal with that. My my mom has this very intuitive kind of faith. She'd talk a lot about like the divine spark in us and that kind of stuff. This
Hmm.
her own way of approaching faith. My dad, it was interesting because he could be really good at the like service sides of
Hmm.
faith and at thinking about faith, but then also kind of a prickly personality and
Yeah.
always be at odds with somebody and always also deconstructing and that kind of stuff. Um, when I was in my teens, he had he was very early in the internet powered faith crisis experience
Hmm.
where there's like a crisis of faith and also a crisis of trust in community. Um, and so he was upset with the church and different degrees of engagement at different times, and then like out over the
Yeah.
course of my like key developmental years. And then somebody where like just personality wise, there's some volatility. So that was like definitely a thing I felt, right?
Hmm.
Like I was very aware of the supercharged feelings around faith and religious conflict. He was not happy that I was going on a mission, and
Yeah.
that was like kind of intense. Um,
And that's kind of what led you to write your play
I
Prodigal Son.
yeah, at the time I was like, no, this has no influence. But like, yeah,
Yeah.
um, the character is not my dad of the
No, and
dad.
I
The
don't
character
think
of the
I'm
son
not
is not
saying
my
that it
son, right?
is, but I think those experiences are what lead the play
Yeah.
to exist. Yeah,
Well,
it's not at
and
all.
like you talked once about speculative autobiography. I like
Hmm.
that term, that
Yeah.
here's this dynamic
Yeah.
of difference. And Prodigal Son, for people who don't know the play, sort of is inverting the what we would think about the parable because it's
Hmm.
about a son who joins the church who's grown up secular. His dad actually grew up in it. Like he's vaguely aware of the church from his grandparents, then
Yeah.
realized through a girlfriend. And but the point was he's the prodigal from his father's point of view, right?
Right.
Which
But
was
we, as the
interesting.
audience, see his father as prodigal.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
To the audience, the father might be prodigal, but
Hmm.
structurally, the son is the one, right? He's the son and
Yeah.
he's leaving. And I think the line there, like the end of the play is him saying, like, I accept, right?
Yeah.
Like he's my dad, and I'm content to be his prodigal son.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
my grandpa's not super into literature. He grew up on poetry. So like Urdu
Hmm.
poetry he loves, but like
Yeah.
American literature he never got into, right?
Yeah.
But he uh, really, I think even before we produced the play, he just had seen the script, it was out, and happened to read it. And it was
Hmm.
wild because he's like, man, this takes me back to
Yeah.
when he joined the church and was doing the thing that his family didn't expect, you know?
Right. Hmm.
Um, so, so yeah, definitely, I think being in that early experience where Latter-day Saint identity or Mormon identity has always been contested, always been contested, but I
Hmm.
felt that in this more like intimate way,
Hmm.
and I was engaged with the like intellectual issues, with the interpersonal issues, with kind of all the layers, and thinking from a pretty young age about, man, why does this mean so much to me? I don't
Yeah.
have to stick with it. Like it, some ways my life would be easier if I didn't, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, what is it there? And I think that that thinking maybe I would have become a writer anyway, but it certainly inflected the kind of writer I became. And
Sure.
maybe I would have done something completely different, right?
I
Uh,
wonder about that. Yeah.
but I was very interested in telling stories of my people. Okay, now though I'm thinking I also maybe should have been right. In seventh grade, I wrote this short story where some of the characters were Punjabi and had like
Mm-hmm.
one of them had the same name as a great uncle of mine who I just loved. I thought he was the coolest, is Bachither. And my
Mm.
seventh grade English teacher was like, these names, nobody understands these names. Like, you got to change them. And I
Mm.
was so pissed off about that that I
Yeah.
probably was going to be a writer ever since then, just because
There's a passion.
there's a passion, there's this sense that like other people are not living the way I'm living,
Hmm.
and a front, right? That
Yeah.
instead of saying, oh hey, I'm finding out about
Hmm.
something I didn't know, there was a
Excuse me.
sense that like no, good writing conforms.
Hmm.
And so being
Mm.
taught early that good writing conforms convinced me to do whatever I want.
Right, right, right. Well, I mean, the example you give about, about Punjabi names being difficult to someone growing up in the West. I mean, that's conforming to a very particular, to a very particular expectation that is assuming, that's what's correct. But really it's a little bit racist. So, you
Yep.
know, I mean, that's a good thing to sometimes you have to get angry about those things. And it is the passion and the fire that drives us to make things sometimes.
And I think for me, being at the intersection of minoritized racial experience. Like I'm mixed
Mhm.
race, but I mean, my first day of college was 9/11. Like
Okay. Yeah.
I had
Wow.
some
Difficulties.
experiences and
Yeah.
opinions about what it means to be in the United States as somebody who is seen at times as not American and sometimes as like an active threat to the country,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
But I think because I had that culturally minoritized experience, I was able to, I've been able with more clarity than some writers to see the way the minoritized religious experience
Mm-hmm.
reflects the same patterns
Mm-hmm.
in academia. Sometimes, like in grad school, I was still getting notes about like you're writing weird cultural stuff from Jewish or Punjabi background that like
Yeah.
I don't get it, right? Like
Right.
even in the like the woke left, people are not necessarily they don't have the skills to
Right.
like think through things all the time. But
Yeah.
I also have had the experience of being able to recognize sometime I'm being received religiously in a
Mm-hmm.
way that has overlap with the way that like linguistically, right?
Mm-hmm.
The syllables of this person I love, their name is perceived as a burden. In the same way, in other spaces, somebody saying, no, this is how you should. If you're writing about religion, you have to engage with these things. And here's how we see religion. Why can't you write more how we see religion? I've felt like, no, I am willing to do the extra work to have a
Hmm.
religious conversation on my terms that
Hmm.
feel organic to the people I have known and
Hmm.
not just to this outside voice. So thank you
Yeah.
to my seventh grade teacher for giving me a bad grade and pissing me off. And I've had the chip on my shoulder ever since. And I think that's good. I
Yeah.
think a writer needs needs a reason.
Hmm. Yep.
Okay,
I
how
think
else
we
did
need
I get
to,
into Mormon literature?
yeah.
Because we've been talking a while, but
We need to talk about, yeah, then we have
I
to,
went on a mission. I loved
what?
that. It was in the former East Germany
Mm.
where people had been through some stuff. And
Yeah.
that was a place too where the church had been through years where it was pretty actively persecuted by the communist
Hmm.
regime. That varied, right? There were some years where it was fairly tolerated. But that also, I think, helped me recognize there's power dynamics here, helped me think about how we organize societies in different
Hmm.
ways. I came back from my mission to Otterbein College in Ohio, where I was studying
Yep.
theater. And Abhijat Joshi was teaching there. He's a Bollywood screenwriter
Oh,
who's
wow.
written some like hits and some
Hmm.
stuff that's, anyway, it was amazing that he was there.
Yeah.
This guy who wrote Three Idiots, for example, if people know Indian cinema at all. And he was writing it like at the time uh, that I was there. I asked if I could just come to his office and learn about Indian theater. And then
Hmm.
we started with theater, but then we do poetry and we
Hmm.
went beyond India. And he was like, here's stuff from Africa I think is interesting. But yeah,
Oh,
like
wow. That's
every week I
great.
was going to Abhijat's office. And that's
Yeah.
a lot of how I learned to become a Mormon writer because he was giving me these different tools
Yeah.
and doing stuff. I did school got more expensive while I was on my mission, and I hadn't planned for that, and I was running out
Yeah.
of money. And so um, my department offered to give me more money, and then the financial aid office was like, no, we don't want this guy, just he's a freeloader or whatever. And I remember thinking about the
No.
scripture about the Pharaoh, the Lord hardening Pharaoh's heart, right?
Yeah.
Being like,
Hmm.
okay, if I'm driven out, like I'm back at home. My dad's really upset about church. That's been a difficult thing. I was living at home after my mission. I'm at
Yeah.
this university where there's this fraught thing, like, and I had thought about like my advisor was like, go to Brandeis, right? He thought I'd do well there, but BYU's cheap. And
Yeah. I
so
was going to
even
say
though I
Brandeis is
had
going to be more
never wanted
expensive.
to go there for
Yeah.
facial hair reasons, I
Hmm.
went. I ended up going early to help my sister with something and getting a beard card because they were doing Old Testament seminary videos. So it's kind of funny. I'd
Yeah.
avoided it for facial hair reasons, and then I had a beard the whole time I was in undergrad there. Um, I went there. I emailed Eric Samuelson
Hmm.
before I went and was like, hey, can I come to your office hours or something? He's like, well, you're coming in the summer. Why don't you just come to my house? Which is
Oh,
awesome.
yeah.
So I got to go to Eric's house and talk to him. And then when I took his playwriting class, I'd bring just piles of my 10-minute play scripts and we'd mess with them. That's where I met Arisael Rivera, who he was
Yeah.
writing a play called Somos Sangre, which means we are blood. That's about like a Puerto Rican Mormon family. And I was doing
That's
this
great.
other Mormon stuff, and we started a new play project out of that.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like doing a theater collective, I think that's how I like really developed a voice
Hmm.
is I'm I'm writing stuff that is immediately performed and people get to see it and I get to see them and kind of adjust and figure out what works by having live work up just
Hmm.
all the time.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about you can show folks your stack of books again. Let's talk about where
We
your
keep
work is.
moving them. We got
We
the
keep moving it around
couple of
because we've been reading
handfuls
from it.
now.
Yeah, it's great. Let's talk about where some of your work is available and where you've been published.
Yeah. Okay. So for short work, what I would say is the main places are like Iriantum, that's the Association for Mormon Letters magazine. Wayfair magazine has been awesome. We've talked about that. I didn't say Mormon Liplets is kind of my new play project after what happened biographically is I was doing theater until I
I have
got
one of those
married and wanted to be with my kids.
That's
and
Erie Anthem, and that's Mormon
and
Liplets.
that's Mormon Liplets.
The very first one.
Yeah, the first 5 years are in that anthology. So for 15 years, I've been running a contest where it's flash fiction, poetry, short essay. We've done some, you could do comics, you could do whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but Scott Hales, myself, and my wife, Nicole Wilkes Goldberg, started that together in 2012 as a
Whew.
way to kind of carry on that new play project mission of where
Hmm.
do we give people space and occasion to create work and find voice and
Yeah.
connect with audience.
Yeah.
So that's been really important to me as an editor, and that's a great place for an audience member to find stuff you like because it's just so quick. It's
Yeah.
like 1 to 5 minutes to read a thing and then
Mhm.
go check out the next one, right? And find
Right.
what resonates with you. I
And we've got
published,
the books. The books are available, but also there are a lot of Mormon lit stories, the Blitz, I should say, that are available online. We'll drop a link in the description.
yes, yep, yeah. So you can just online look through and find what's of interest to you.
Yeah.
I published a little in Sunstone and Dialogue. I've also published in the Leahona, right? Not
Right.
fiction, of course, but I've got the range. And then
Hmm.
in terms of books proper, my first novel was The Five Books of Jesus.
Good
This
stuff. Good
thing
stuff.
still, every month it has been in publication, somebody has bought it, right?
Yeah.
It's still just like trucks along, and it's
Hmm.
been out for, I
A
don't know,
while, at
maybe like
least
13
10, more
years.
than it's been a while.
Yeah.
Because I have it
So
somewhere. I have it somewhere. I want to say it's at least 10, maybe 12.
yeah, well, it's gotta be more than that because I wrote it. 2012 is the year.
2012.
So it turns
So
14
14 is,
this
oh
this
wow.
fall.
Yeah.
Um, but that's a book where I queried to different agents and stuff to do the conventional publishing route. Nobody was interested, like at
Hmm.
all.
Yeah.
And at some point, I looked and I'm like, this is a literary Jesus novel. Like, people probably just don't know how they can sell it. I
Mm.
could look at broader Christian market, but I'm a Latter-day Saint, and how are they going to feel right now?
Yeah.
Honestly, that has changed. I think there's more room
Yeah.
in Christian publishers for Latter-day Saint work since then. And
Hmm.
then also, are they going to want me to talk about this a different way? And I could go to like a Deseret Book type publisher, but are they going to want it a little
Yeah.
more Latter-day Saint, a little less Mormon, right? And I mean that there's not an overtly Mormon stuff, but I'd been a research assistant on Joseph Smith papers. I'd thought about how does a religion emerge. So to me, there's like very Mormon parts of this book, but it's just a Jesus retelling. Works
Yeah.
for broad audiences. Um, anyway, I was deciding what to do, where do I go in terms of trying to get this published. And as I was doing that, I read that like a successful literary novel sells
Mm.
2,000 copies. Like if you do 2,000 copies, that's great, right?
Yeah.
Because many literary novels sell 100 copies. Um, and like I didn't know before that that's so like here's all these steps. And like
Hmm.
in the United States, there are going to be one or two book club books a year that sell just a ton because Oprah Oprah has that infrastructure, right? She
Right.
built a market. So the book club book that hits will sell a ton of copies, but the like graph drops way off after that. And
Mm.
like more literary fiction, like people don't use that much. And I thought,
No.
you know what? If 2,000 copies is what you're going for, I got a lot of cousins. I got to start. Like, let me do
Yeah.
this. So I have published work on my own. A lot of it is listed now as Beankar core books. That's the name my great grandma gave to my mom as her like
Hmm.
Punjabi name, and I just thought that
Hmm.
was cute.
Yeah.
So that's what I've used as like a personal imprint. So several are through that. That said, So I worked for church history. I've published stuff with the church. You and
Hmm.
I both contributed to like the Saints volume. I'm a
Yep.
co-author on Revelations in Context.
Yep.
Global Histories that we talked about earlier with the Ivory
Hmm.
Coast story has been important to me. Carry On is with Church Historians Press.
Yep.
I've done a bunch of stuff with the church. Obviously, that reaches more people because there's an infrastructure. BCC Press published a couple of my books. Kelm, Tales of the Kelm First Word is with them. Burning Book is too. Maybe they're my Jewish publisher, I guess, uh,
Yeah.
for the Jewish Mormon stuff, coincidentally.
Coincidentally.
And then I do have Latter day Sick, we talked about, is with Deseret Book,
That's exciting. Yeah.
and has been a good fit for them. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of what's the right thing for the project
Hmm.
is the answer to where have I published?
All sorts of places.
All sorts of places. And what I would say to people who are interested in write, if you're a reader, find the publishers you like. If you're a
Hmm.
writer, find the publishers you like. And
Yeah.
if nobody's doing quite the thing you want to do, like don't be afraid to go throw up a stage and do a show with some friends to learn, right?
Right.
And go do something. And you and I have talked about like there's a trade-off. You can't do that forever, right? At
Right.
some point in a career, you want to feel like you're connected to some infrastructure,
Right.
but you don't want to be beholden to it as you are figuring out who you are and what
Right.
you have to say to the world. And it's
Hmm.
more important to find your soul, and then you can find your publisher.